During a recent fundraiser at Mar-A-Lago, Donald Trump reiterated that he would rather deal with Russia, China, and North Korea than his fellow Americans. But before we unpack all that, if you haven't yet, please hit that like, subscribe, and the alert bell. All right, folks, I don't want to spend too much time on this because it's nothing new. It's just a new instance of something that is reoccurring with Donald Trump, which is his utter contempt for the American people, specifically those Americans who disagree with him or vote against him or criticize him, which, depending on how you calculate that, is 50, 60, 70% of the entire country. And this man wants to be president of the United States. But I want you to hear the clip directly. This is from a fundraiser at Mar-A-Lago. This is about 16 seconds long. And again, consider the context. It's nothing new.
I always say we have problems from within and from the outside, but the outside are easier. Russia, China, Kim Jong-un, North Korea. These are much easier problems than dealing with some of the maniacs we have to deal with in our own country.
Now, who could he be referring to? Well, let's consider again his words in context. He has lambasted blue states, he's lambasted blue cities, he's lambasted the Democrats, the left. He's referred to them as groomers, as Marxists, as communists, as fascists, as Nazis, the Department of Justice, President Biden, the Biden administration. We really have no reason to interpret his words particularly charitably, especially because he's very cavalier. He paints with a very broad brush about people he dislikes, the media as well. This is not a man who, couches his words in disclaimers, which is interesting because, and again, I've made this point in previous videos discussing this particular topic in previous instances, but I look at how Donald Trump, and I listen to how Donald Trump speaks about his fellow Americans, and then I contrast that with, say, the rhetoric from President Biden. The big speech that President Biden gave last year at Independence Hall with the blue and light and the dark Brandon speech, Fox News and OAN and Newsmax and conservative commentators and pundits and so on and so forth, they made a big deal. Oh my God, I can't believe Biden's divisive language, his divisive speech, because he called out MAGA Republicans. Now, as I pointed out, in that speech, he gave like 3 disclaimers right before he said it, and then disclaimers at the end. He couched it in one disclaimer after another, where he said, I'm not referring to all Republicans or even most Republicans. I work with most Republicans. I respect most Republicans. Donald Trump never does that when he talks about the left or Democrats or people he disagrees with. These two men are graded on a completely different set of standards, and it's unacceptable. It really is. There were actually mainstream media outlets that were critical of President Biden's speech, even though, again, he went out of his way to say, not all Republicans, not most Republicans, I love Republicans, I respect Republicans, look at how much I work with Republicans successfully. Meanwhile, you have the former president of the United States who wants to be the president again. He wants to take Biden's job. And he's saying things like this, that he'd rather deal with Vladimir Putin and Xi Jinping and Kim Jong-un than his fellow Americans. I simply point this out to say that if it were any other person, if it were any other politician, it would be eminently disqualifying, right? But because it's Donald Trump, we grade him on a curve. We have to stop it. This should be, a centerpiece of Democratic fundraising and Democratic campaign ads, and you and I need to get the word out there that Donald Trump hates the American people and he loves foreign autocrats.